Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I am Philip Ellis.
And I'm Ian Martin.
And I'm Ian Carlos Crawford, and today we're here to talk Angels Season 3, Episode 11? 12, Provider. But before we get into the episode, I'm going to give my little Patreon spiel. Any and all support is much appreciated. We have a Patreon where we go through a lot of random shit, anything I'm watching, anything I'm thinking of, anything I've rewatched. But we're also we've gone through Harley Quinn, Firefly, we're going through X-Men the Animated Series and Batman the Animated Series. And we have a watch along Zoom I try to do every other month. I have a sex show with Zachary Patton Garcia where we talk all things sex and dating called My Nudie Judy. We just recently interviewed a porn star and did a porn watch along video. So yeah, any and all support is much appreciated. Fellas, what did we think? Philip, what did you think revisiting this episode? We kind of talked about it a little before recording, but
I think it suffers from being sandwiched in between Birthday and Waiting in the Wings, which, as we were saying before, they're two much more like standout episodes in season 3. And it's hard to characterize like what is a season 3 episode versus a season 2 episode or a season 4 because they all blur together a little bit. I just remembered this as basically being the only episode where we actually see them working. Really?
right?
We actually see a functioning, supernatural detective agency. It in a funny way, it reminded me of like a mid-season episode of like Deep Space Nine or something, where you've got a load of subplots and a load of like aliens and monsters and stuff just like milling around. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's actually more of like a lighthearted filler episode, really. So it was fine.
Ian?
I remember this as one of my least favorite episodes of the show.
Ian, I feel like I'm consistently booking you for episodes you don't like. And it is not on purpose.
Now, I, just to clarify, though, that's the way I remember it. Watching it, I think that it's difficult to explain why that is, because it's very well made.
It's pretty tightly written, I do think.
I think it's essentially a group of small vignettes. There's not only an A and a B story, there's a C and a D story going on in it. Everyone is doing their best with the material. That's the thing, is once the show finds its sort of voice and stride, the quote unquote miss or bad episodes are even of a certain quality and a level.
Yeah, I agree.
That any of the misses in season 1 are well behind. So for my own reasons, I still remember this one as one of my least favorite episodes of the show, which we can get into as we go.
That's fair. The only thing I remembered from this episode was the end scene. And the reason I say that is because I already did the image for this episode, and it's mostly based on that last scene. It doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the episode, because that was like the imagery I thought of like them connecting with Connor in the middle. This is when, well, I guess in Dad first, but this for me is when the Holtz story starts to stop episodes dead. Like the Holtz and Justine stuff, I find so boring. Justine sucks. Holtz is that guy's a good actor. He has a good voice. It's a good idea that then now starts to drag. And I'm like,
I forgot that Holtz was even in this episode. And like, it's because the writers forgot he was in the episode as well. He's introduced in, I think, is it just after the cold open? And we get 2 scenes with him and Justine where he's kind of hazing her. And you expect that to go somewhere, but because the episode is so crowded already, you're like, oh, you just need, like, they included that so that we remember that Holtz is elsewhere. Yeah. But it's really like that's just for in a few episodes' time when that plot arc is going to pick up again.
It's essentially one scene, which could be from a different episode, cut up and distributed across the entire episode.
Yes.
I think it just exists as a reminder, and it feels completely out of place. And it's the only thing I enjoy about the episode. But that gets into it's why you come to the show, right? And I come to the show for the drama and the gravitas and the crying and the emotions and the, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And so these kinds of episodes by their nature are just sort of not for me.
That's
and
fair.
Then you get into like my whole shtick is sort of the message and the metaphor and like, tell me how to live my life. I'm that guy who looks to his stories to understand his own life. What is the theme of this episode? Angel states it outright at the end of the episode. Money isn't everything.
So money is not everything. Theme of the episode, also the title of the episode in Spain. But
is that what it is?
I was going through the wiki and I came up with my favorite thing about this episode, which is its Czech title. Even a vampire does not suck for free.
That is a wild name.
I love it.
That is everything you just said so far, Philip. Listening to you talk is considerably more enjoyable to me than the episode itself.
Ian, someone recently DM'd Slayerfest to say they love you and I together because we both come at these episodes from a completely different angle. And they're like, I mean that as a compliment. And
Sure,
I was like,
yeah.
no, I take it as one. Yeah. They were like a lot of the other co-hosts and you, Ian, which you and I, Philip, like kind of have the same.
Very similar,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. But they said that like you and I, Ian, are the most different. And that's why they like when you're on.
An episode could be trash and we'd just be like, Cordelia looks so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. But remember that one line she said where she looked great? So this episode also, I will say, reminded me, like you said, Philip, we don't see them doing their they live at their business and we don't see them doing the job part of it.
I'm sure it's a critique that we had when we were watching season 1 like last year, where Angel sets up a detective agency and that is an engine just to create stories, and so few of the episodes are about them having a client. It's like, Buffy has the monster of the week every week, and you should have the mystery of the week or the case of the week in Angel, and they almost immediately dispense with that. And also it's like by this point it's not even a detective agency. They're monster hunters, they're ghostbusters, sort of like generic problem solvers. They're fixers. They're like Olivia Pope, but with
demons.
It is sort of satisfying to see, and I wish that we'd got not too much more, but just like a little bit more of watching a day in the life of Angel Investigations.
Shorthand in Buffy for Buffy continues to do her job. Like I think of the cold open of The Wish, which is not really a Buffy-centric episode and all of that. But in the cold open, they just cut to Buffy punching a demon in the face.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like, it's really easy to do shorthand for, and Buffy was doing her job when X happened or the main plot or whatever. And I think you bring up a great point. It would have felt like some nice world building if every once in a while, as the main plot of the Angel episode moved through the Hyperion, we see one of the supporting characters that episode working with a client.
Yeah.
Or, you could have just had it be sort of background of this functioning business occurring. And I think it would have really enhanced. That's a great.
I can't remember. Did either of you, I don't know if I know the answer. Did either of you watch Veronica Mars?
No.
Because I always think Veronica Mars did that really well, Ian, where it's like she did have the mystery of the week, but there still was the like forward story. And I mean, some of the episodes would be clunkers, but like it still had the like background moving storyline that was like the plot arc of the season, but they would still do I thought Veronica Mars, of any show where it has a one-off whatever of the week, I think Veronica Mars did that best, that format where like the mystery was still interesting because I loved her so much and I loved watching her like make everyone eat shit all the time. And then like, but also there would be like a clue to whatever the big mystery was. Granted, oftentimes mid-season, I'd be like, what is the mystery? I don't remember. But I like season 2. I love season 2, and I still couldn't fucking tell you. There's something with a bus. That's all I know. And like I remember there's a point in season 2 of Veronica Mars where like I think one of the people that was in the bus like washes on the shore and they have a word written on their arm. And I just remember being like, I have no idea how this relates. And I, having watched that season like 3 times, I still could not tell you. But it was like
I don't
a big
really
reveal.
remember.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't remember I remember who the killer was in season 1 still, but I don't remember the. Yeah, part of that was too is the first one was so intertwined to Veronica's life and circle and all of that, and it's tough to do that repeatedly without it. Right. The show feels kind of joyfully contrived, can't be in a fun way, in a deliberate way. Yeah. But if everyone in Veronica's circle had continued to be a murderer, it might have struggled. Maybe that's why the bus one has less of an idea.
It's a completely different vibe, but very much it's the same is true of How to Get Away with Murder. Just to bring up another Shonda Rhimes show, season 1, great. It's a great, like, well constructed and plotted mystery. But then season 2, season 3, season 4, like they keep bringing it in, like they keep trying to make it about a new case, but it always ends up that one of the main characters that we already know is like directly involved, and it's contrived in a way that just becomes like bloated and quite sort of frustrating. So it's nice, when writers kind of are bold enough to break out of the confines they've written themselves into. But back to this episode. So we open with them, with the whole team doing the website and out flyering, and they are advertising that they are open for business. And I love when we are reminded that Angel is very cheap, because he has gone and collected, like, I think it's like $1.20 in coins out from like the couches in the lobby, and he's putting them in the safe.
You know what?
It's not only that.
Are you gonna say the same thing I'm about to, Ian? You might be.
I don't know. I like fussy Angel. I like cheap Angel. I love all of that as well. But this is so on the nose. It literally opens with him counting change and putting it in a piggy bank, and then putting the piggy bank into the safe. Like,
okay, that was not. I was gonna say it reminded me of like when they let him be an old man, and they remind us that he is an old man. Yeah, that's what that felt like to me. Like a little old man being like, "Yeah, this is worth something," and it's like, "Why are you fucking collecting 21 cents from a?"
Well, he literally says in the beginning of an episode, "It's not that I'm cheap; it's that I'm old." You know what this used to cost 100 years ago? Yeah, right. I love that reading of the cheapness, is that it's just age and perpetual inflation.
Because, like, I love the running gag, which we get here, that he's terrible with his cell phone. Like, I do really like that gag. I still have to help my dad's, my dad's had a cell phone I still have to constantly help my dad with, like, something. He was talking to a woman online and accidentally blocked her. He was like, I blocked someone I was talking to. How do I undo that? And I was like, oh my God. But I don't know if you all caught this. Cordelia, as she will again in season 5, reminds him that he can't lose sight of the mission. And I was like, next time you say this, I cry.
It's such a, as you know, we've already kind of set out. It's not a subtle episode. And yeah, it's like in this scene, we are setting out the entire theme and plot of the episode in the cold open, where there's that fun role reversal with Angel being motivated by money and Cordelia being motivated by the mission. And it's going to take us, 45 minutes for him to figure out that he has been maybe a little, had his priorities mixed up. But it's also just like a very funny cold open, because they've put out all this marketing, and we see somebody being chased down an alley in the rain, and they're waiting for a phone call, and it goes to a split screen.
I love the split screen.
Split screens are so good. Like I said, this is so well made.
I love just don't go back to it. For all we know, that man is dead.
Dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
It's a split screen of the man in the phone booth, which dates it. And then it splits to the phone in the office, and then a third frame comes in of is it a pizza place?
Yeah. Wrong. Got a very disturbing phone call that evening because they put the wrong number on there.
And I just like Angel doesn't do this often, but it does do it. This is like a very Buffy thing where it's like they don't like they just have Fred pick up the flyer and she's like, is this the right number? And like you said, Philip, we never go back to that man is probably dead.
In Buffy, that scene would have ended with a little on the violin or something
yes.
A funny little flourish, and instead it's just like dead air, and it's you're left feeling so weird, and it's great.
Yeah, I love it. Because even when I was watching it, because again, I didn't remember this episode that much, I was like, is that guy with those demons? Nope, that guy is with nothing. That guy is dead after this scene. And I kind of love that that's the joke. Like, they don't get to save someone's life because they put the wrong fucking phone number on something.
It's so really, yeah, like we see this guy, like they don't even know he exists. Like, it's just, it's a surprisingly like dark joke to open the episode with, considering what the episode is all about.
Yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, we cut to credits, and then when we're back, is this when we have Holtz hazing Justine?
First, it's the phones are ringing like crazy, and Wes and Gunn are watching Fred. Ian, what do you think of the Fred Gunn Wes thing?
It's so boring.
It's so forced.
Yeah.
And both. Everyone
really
involved is a great actor, but like
about
not.
This. Yeah. The issues are not. I have almost no notes on this. When we finished watching the episode, I was like, because this episode is so well made. The construction is so great. I love that editing of the triple screen that you guys were describing. Like, the performances are terrific. I almost wish that the Buffyverse wasn't such a slave to theme, because this is all built around that trite, stupid money isn't everything. The whole thing, and I think that drags all of this material down, because there are fun bits. The zombie bit's great, all of that, and the love triangle, them sort of talking in synchronized speaking about Fred in the scene, to me breaks one of my or triggers one of my most glaring frustrations with drama and storytelling, which is when the drama is driven by people just not having a conversation. The two of them are standing next to each other, know exactly what is going on, and 2 episodes from now, Gunn and Wes have a conversation where Gunn acts surprised that Wes had a crush on Fred. There is no reason for that to happen, because these 2 guys are standing next to each other throughout this episode, drooling over Fred. I was talking about the hot mama, so the comedy of the bit is fine to me. It's just like, just let them talk, or let them be aware of each other. In order to, you have to dumb these characters down in order for this bit to work. And that's why it doesn't for me.
And it doesn't work for those 2 characters. It's just, they're like,
no,
it's like Gunn is never the like goofy dummy. Like,
they're 2 of the smartest characters on the show.
Yeah.
So to have them doing this, which you could call commentary on hormones or attraction or whatever, but it just doesn't work for me either.
Yeah, and I always try to think of how I would fix it. I just think I just wouldn't do it. I don't think there is like a fix. What do you think, Philip? You are the author here. You write romance. How would you fix it?
So it's all about how does Fred coming into this group affect the pre-existing relationships? And it's like everybody forgot that Gunn and Wesley are essentially best friends.
That's true. Yeah.
They don't even play with like the tension of these men and their loyalty to each other being tested by their attraction to this woman, because as you say, Ian, like they're not talking to each other. Everybody is an idiot because the plot requires them to be an idiot in order to be carried out. Like, it's one of my biggest frustrations, and especially in romance, where so often it's like the hands of the writers are just pushing the characters together like dolls and making them kiss. You need such a light hand to make it feel like these characters are still acting like real people, and they're just not. They're acting like dummies.
I think I didn't think about that, but you're right. It's like they're not acting like these characters normally do act like real people, and they are not here. Yeah.
This same bit exists in The Office when I can't remember the name of the character who replaces Pam at the front desk, but
Kimmy Schmidt. I forget.
Yeah,
Aaron. Is it Aaron?
Andy and Dwight get a crush on Aaron, and they've been broing it up for an episode or two because they bonded over who they were both crushing on before. Angela. They bonded over Angela, and Angela broke both their hearts, and so they're broing it up and connected. And now they get a crush on the same girl again, and the two of them start flirting with her and singing with her, and there's a scene in the room where they're both trying to show off for her and instead get really engaged in singing with each other and the duet, and she just kind of wanders out of the room as they look into each other's eyes singing at the top of their lungs. It is a wonderful scene that enhances those two characters and their romance with each other, which I think is far more interesting than that, and that is how this could have gone.
Yeah.
Instead, it's just sort of written in the most obvious, simplistic way possible.
And Fred is so passive for all of it because, again,
she just exists.
Yeah, they're writing her as being blissfully like ignorant, oblivious, unaware, and it's like these are all intelligent people. And she's going to be shucksing it in a few episodes, like not realizing that. It's like, well, when you're that hot, you know you're hot. Sorry, Fred. Like you know you're hot, and also you are aware of when someone is into you. So it's like it's just all rings,
especially that cartoonishly. Like it's not like it's like subtle.
Well, that I had forgotten too. That like one of the constant running critiques of Fred's character is not the character itself, but that she exists as for the purposes of developing the male characters around her.
Yeah.
And this kind of is the beginning of that already happening as the source of lust and no agency.
So I think I started liking Fred in Billy because she was able to like take on Wes and Gunn, and we get that scene where she tells Angel, like, oh, I love watching you and Cordelia. Of course you're attracted to each other. And he's like, what? And to your point, Philip, that shows that she does pay attention. Like she can notice human interactions. The fact that she's picking up on it before Angel and Cordelia are. Fred is like, oh, I love the fact. And she drops her crush on Angel and just like becomes a cheerleader of Cordelia and Angel. And I love that. I love being able to write a character who's like, oh, they did have a crush, but jealousy is almost never in characters I love with blah, blah. I rarely love a jealousy storyline, even though I am a jealous person in person. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I feel like then once they do this like love triangle, that's like, unfortunately, Amy Acker is so good, which is why we still like her. But yeah, I do. It feels like she becomes, like, the hot nerd girl.
What was there was an episode you did a little while ago, and it was our darling Angela who called Fred a homie hopper. And it's like, oh yeah, Fred, like she had a crush on Angel, and then she was in a relationship with Gunn, and then she got with Wesley. It's like, wow, yeah.
Part of the whole reason the season 5 Fred death occurs, I've read, is because Amy Acker was tired of the way Fred's character was being written as sort of this pawn and having no real agency or identity of her own. So they made her a god, Illyria, who immediately is back into Wesley and has her entire story becomes sort of written around Wes again.
Well,
and as much as I love that arc, I love that turn, and like that's when all of that material starts working for me.
Yeah.
At least when it comes to Fred's character, it sort of becomes a little bit more of the same, albeit more of the best version of all the more. But maybe that's just me.
But to bring it back to this episode, because otherwise we're going to be talking.
Sorry, yes, thank you.
We're talking for 2 hours about things we like more than this episode. Again, Fred is incredibly passive throughout this episode because it's about her brilliant brain, but ultimately it's about her being a damsel in distress who needs to be rescued at the end.
Yep.
And they even infantilize her that little bit again by putting her in fucking pigtails.
I hate the pigtails.
So I think what we should do, I know that this is what we do normally for the Magicians episodes, but should we just talk about each storyline like one
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Other than linear.
So one of my few writing notes would be, I actually really like the last half when Cordelia is almost narrating everything to the baby. And I think that could have been a cute frame for the story. Like,
oh, that would have been great.
Story. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like she's like, just like telling the baby all these like things they did. Maybe it's all the one day where it's like, can you believe all the things that,
Also,
what a day.
That would have justified the simplistic structure of the episode. Like having it have the simple, tedious, obvious theme works because it's a children's story. It's a bedtime story that you just fixed the episode. That's awesome.
Thank you for making my fix smarter than it actually was.
Oh, that's so good.
But yeah, so let's breeze by Justine and Holtz, because what the fuck even is that when it's like the knife is in her hand, she stays there all day. I was like, does she pee her pants? Like what? She stays there, he goes back, he takes the knife out, and she punches him, and I'm like, I do not understand this dynamic.
That could have just been, it feels like that was shot for another episode, and they were like, oh, it won't fit anywhere, and we need to remind the audience, because I don't think Holtz was in the previous episode, and he's not going to be in the next episode, so...
Yeah, true.
It's like...
But right, but like, I'm like, I don't understand why she willingly stays, but then also is still mad at him, and it's like, girl, fucking leave, like...
And then she hits him with the hand that had the knife through it. I'm like, you have absolutely 100%, you have got sepsis. Go to the hospital.
Yeah, that like whole room is dirty. That table is dirty. They are probably dirty.
Again, you're just selling the scene to me.
I just like
as fuck is like the summary.
Someone on Twitter said that someone on Twitter, Instagram said that like they love Holtz, and I was like, I love him until the Darla arc ends, and then I feel like he becomes so boring. And it's a shame because I do like his interactions with Sajan, but Sajan kind of goes away for a little bit. And like Sajan is like in the vein of Glory. He's not nearly as interesting, but he's like where he like speaks modern, knows modern things, but is this like old demon-y.
Well, it's funny. Now that you've pointed out how opposite our feelings are about stuff over and over, I always feel like Sajan's kind of one joke. He, and as people who do this, we all have the opinions you don't like to admit openly to the fandom because you are going to receive a bunch of texts and emails. I'm not a huge fan of Glory.
Okay, I think you've told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those.
It is so what we were talking about.
Homophobic.
Where, it's like, wow, the straight man, the strong woman.
Well, it's similarly because I feel like a lot of the big bads end up as sort of one joke. The mayor was at risk of being one joke until he has Faith next to him, and the dynamic of the two of them reveal things in each other. And I think that they attempted to set that up with Glory, and it just ended up lacking. So she's just a fabulous god, and that's awesome. But that, for me, is like the beginning, middle, and end of Glory during those stories. And I feel sort of similarly to Sajan as
hilarious.
I get it.
Your critique is probably not unlike what Philip and I would say is why we love her.
Honestly, it's that thing again of like, me and Ian, and then but this is why it's great to have conversations, have differing opinions.
Well, I mean, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like the mayor is demonic Mr. Rogers. That's the joke, demonic Mr. Rogers. But once Faith comes into his orbit, there's something more interesting. Like my favorite scene is her telling the story of about jumping from the height, and no one else would do it. They were all afraid, and he looks at her with these loving, fatherly eyes and says, "Not you, though." Like, there's a depth and a beauty and an interest there to those characters that's all of a sudden exists that that is absent from the other ones that we're describing. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. That's fair. But tell me what you like about Justine and Holtz. That I would like to know.
Well, we're talking about, like, there's a form of one-dimensional that I enjoy, and that is like the like gothy gravitas, you know, a sort of the idea that she needs to hold on to her pain in order to remain a part of his team and his group. Like the whole idea of leaving in the screwdriver in her hand, of not choosing to heal, of not letting go. Like, that works as an interesting metaphor for the vengeance that he is through the whole thing. Like, whatever you think of her performance, I totally understand. And, like, you know, and again, we're talking about two characters that don't change, that just sort of are the same thing. And there is a point where Holtz and Justine cease to be interesting to me.
Okay,
like she even says the line that is in every breakup pop song ever, which is so cliche to me unless you're feeling it, like pop music, right? When you're going through a breakup, suddenly every song on the radio speaks to you. And she says something to the effect of, "I'd rather feel the pain than feel nothing." And I'm just hell yeah.
I groaned when she said that, because again, it's the episode taking any kind of subtext and just like spelling it out, not trusting the audience. Like, the woman has a knife in her hand and she has to turn to the camera and be like, "It's better to feel something than feel nothing." and her delivery of it, like,
I we all agree on that.
Norm, I didn't even remember that line. Honestly, I feel like the moment they are on screen, my eyes glaze over and my brain is like, "Ooh, let's get a soda."
Well, and I also, you can read that whole scene through the lens of daddy issues, which is another like thing that I'm incredibly susceptible to. Is like,
that is kind of their,
she's like his lost father figure sort of thing, and I'm like, all right, I'm in.
I know I've said this a million times this season, but like, I did read that this was supposed to be Kate, and that would have kind of made sense. I wouldn't have liked this it would, if we're bringing Kate back, bring her back and make me like her. Don't make me dislike her more. So I'm glad this wasn't Kate, but it would have made more sense if it was Kate. Like, he joins with someone who feels, I mean, granted, her last appearance is them like reconciling, but prior to that, she hated him. And so it would have made a little sense if it's like this woman who like has always hated him, who blames him for her dad's death, not just like some random woman in a jean jacket who maybe has Vampire Slayer vibes.
And that's the thing. It's like, even though, you know, Kate was a very unpopular character, there was history and familiarity there where there's immediate buy-in to like, oh yeah, no, I understand this and I understand where she's coming from. Whereas with Justine, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Yeah. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying we're just talking about what is our kind of bad.
Yeah, no.
Right? And this is my kind of bad.
The thing I say about this is what I tell everyone when they get mad at me in the fandom for having a different opinion is I like hearing people's different opinions.
Yeah, I do too.
We're adults. Like, I'm not like offended. But we should move on. So the hotel is really busy. We'll break up the scenes, but let's talk about like the setup for the other scenes.
Yes, I really like this whole sort of, you've got the camera like following them through the crowded lobby. You've got lots of different,
like breezy. Yeah.
It's just like, it's really dynamic, and it's like, it's sort of, it's passive world building where there's just like, oh, there's all sorts of like different looking creatures and characters kind of like milling around, and Lorne is there lawning. And yeah, I really, really like it. It's almost like a preview of like, this is what you're going to get so much more of in season 5.
Yes, I was thinking that it had very big season 5 vibes. It's even the like, what I didn't even put what their names are. The demons that are the main demons with the like chrome metal masks that like snap, crackle, and pop. I was like, we see them in season 5, don't we? We do not. I was mushing them together with the season 1 finale demon who has a nearly...
The mask is like, again, like, and we talk about this all the time, how they recycle costumes and stuff. And I was like, that mask is what the bad guy in the season 1 finale was wearing, right? Or
right. I think it literally is, I think. But then I was mushing them up with, because I remembered that we see the guy with the tube, Archduke Sebastus from season 5, who like does have the like IV or whatever, and is like, so I was just kind of mushing them together, but I think also that's what the show was doing. Like they took a little part of that idea and used it in season 5, and like you said, Philip, we're just like, oh, we have this mask in the closet, let's use it. Oh, we have a few of them, great, we can have 4 demons with the mask on.
At the risk of another tangent, Ian, I kind of want to see a fan edit of all of your quick summaries of the different bad guys. You know, Archduke Sebastus is like, and then we have the Snap Crackle Pop demons and all of that. Like, I'd love to see all of those just edited in a row.
I'm a professor. So Lorne we later learn, which is so obvious here, Lorne mistranslates the demons want Wesley's head. Oh wait, no, they just want to use your brain, but they do literally want his head. But then they're impressed because Fred comes up and what is it? She realizes even their robes have like a puzzle on them.
And she says a lot of mathematical words, and they might be correct, and in the proper context, I do not know. But it's a very Fred kind of, run-on sentence that goes on just that little bit too long, and everybody else has sort of ceased to understand what she's talking about. But I keep trying to go and say aliens. They're not aliens. They're demons.
Very alien-y.
Yeah,
very, very alien. Like, they look quite futuristic, even though their king is very kind of wizened and kind of more fantastical looking. But they realize, actually, maybe she has the brain that we want and the head that we want. And so she and Lorne go to their barge. Also, I just want to say this is a really great episode for like early 2000s computer graphics, because we have the detective agency website in the cold open where Angel is being like basically the worst graphic design client ever, because he's like, make it bigger but tasteful and bolder but nice. And then we have the incredible graphic of the demons just like cropping like Fred's head and transferring it over with like the big.
What is that? Like, what even is that?
Microsoft Paint or something.
Because I put Photoshop in my notes and then deleted it. I was like, no, that's not even Photoshop.
You can even see the mouse pointer drawing the incision under her neck on that.
And it's like somewhere between purposefully goofy and also just like very bad.
And when he turns the laptop to show his lord what's happening, he literally doesn't turn the laptop all the way around, so he turns it to the camera. Yes. Like the block but with the camera is standing where Lorne is supposed to be. But who are they showing? In the room, they're supposed to be showing the king, and they just turn it to the king. It's so
and like average. The thing is, what is the purpose of that? Because the king knows what happens.
Yeah, like, presumably he's on his like 10th or 12th head. This is not his first rodeo. So
like some really bad clip art isn't like really gonna help.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Like, her head. Am I right? Like the thing we've been doing. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's like early 2000s glamour filter. He just wanted to see what he looks like with Fred's head on.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no, let's put like on the Yassify.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of that whole storyline, and then I guess we can talk about the ending bit at the end. Should we talk about the zombie?
Yes, let's talk about the zombie.
My favorite bit.
I was gonna say, I think this one could have been a little bit more focused, and I would have liked it because it's funny. I love when Wes and Gunn are there. I mean, granted, they're like, I mean, we know we talked about this a little bit, but when they are saying each other's words and talking about Fred, I was like, these two men are gonna fuck each other right there. Like, that's what it felt like. They make prolonged eye contact. They like stare at each other. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
Oh,
project.
I know that there was fan fiction of them. I know it.
Oh
Because
yeah, there's fan fiction of everyone.
I mean, yeah, there's fan fiction of every possible permutation and pairing ever. But I just remember when we were talking about season 2, like the bond that those two develop is really lovely, and it's like everybody involved just forgot that happened, but these two actors just still have like zero chemistry with Fred, but with each other, oh my god.
Yeah. So I love also when they're going through the things it could be, when they're like, well, it could be a vampire, it could be a zombie. And then he just bursts through the door and Wes is like, right, then zombie it is. Like, I think that's like shit I love about these shows when they do that. Like, well, we're going to have to research it. And then it just is the thing that you thought it was. And like,
and it's a lovely, again, it's something that Angel does so well. That's sort of the blending of the supernatural with the mundane. Because at first I think that this woman, I can't even remember her name, just has a regular stalker, her ex-boyfriend, and then they realize that no, he's dead, and oh, he's a zombie. And she's like, oh my god, like you always do this, like you're so needy. And it's like the episode doesn't even bother like explaining like how he came back from the dead, I don't think. And then it's revealed that she murdered him.
Yeah.
And we again go
Which
nowhere
is
with that.
so clever. It's so good. Like, yeah, it goes nowhere. But the Angel, way more than Buffy, seems to be built on. It's almost like there's a mandate every episode to subvert an expectation. You know, a simple example is a scene opens with Cordelia being very upset, and the camera pulls, and you think she's in trouble, and it pulls back, and she's doing an acting sequence.
Yeah.
Right. Like if there's a spectrum for twists, it's the low end of the twist spectrum to me, where it's just like, oh, it's just because the camera was close up or whatever. And there are tons of those in Angel. But that twist of her being the murderer, and then the two of them getting back together, to me feels like a Jane Espenson season 2 or season 3 Buffy episode in just this little vignette.
Yeah, I would agree.
That I really loved.
Yeah, and like the look on Gunn and Wes's face, the looks on their faces when they're like, and they start kissing, and Wes is like, "Will that be checker cash?" Like they're just like, "Fucking fine, but pay us." Like,
I think maybe the reason it works is because this episode is kind of has 20 storylines. It's like it doesn't outstay its welcome. We get just enough of it, and then we leave.
And it's like goofy. Yeah, it's like goofy enough. Yeah.
I had kind of an aside too about that actor. I looked up the zombie actor. He's a character actor you see in a million things, and I can never. His name is Eric Bruskotter.
Okay.
And there must be an entire group of actors who are always typecast as Biff Tannen. You know, he specifically reminds me of the bully from season 3 of Buffy or season 2 of Buffy. I can't remember his name. He gets murdered by the snake. His big secret is that he's gay.
Oh, Larry.
Thank you. Yeah. It's the same kind, that actor playing that same kind of character throughout. And I think he's really good. I really enjoy that actor, but it's funny. I think I always see him typecast as a Larry or a Biff throughout the performance.
I think it's the thickness of the neck.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Because I thought he looked like the zombie in Some Assembly Required, but also the guy in the Zeppo that's a zombie who's
which are all the same character, right? It's all the same character.
I'm going to take it way back to the beginning. I think what spawned this archetype is in, and obviously because this is like in our consciousness right now, in the original Beetlejuice, there's the undead football team who were in a bus crash, and he keeps thinking that the old woman is his coach, and he's like, "Coach, I don't think we survived." It's that guy.
Yeah. I thought the reference you were going to make, because my other reference is, it also reminds me of the best friend Devin saw what kills that's not Seth Green in Idle Hands. He has like the two friends that haunt him. Yeah. The other one that's not Seth Green, this guy is like all of those people to me.
Yeah. A bit of an aside, but that just made me think of it. But I love the take that if you're an actor in Hollywood finding yourself getting typecast as the bully, maybe bulk a little bit less so your neck thins out.
I mean, so which one do we want to talk about next? Angel, I guess? Yeah, Angel.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
I did not remember him in this.
John Winchester.
So young, so handsome, in a suit that almost fits, because I know that this is a bugbear of ours.
Yes.
So yeah, this one is like a little convoluted. And again, like I think this one was one where it could have maybe it would have benefited from more room to breathe in a less crowded episode. So Angel, I guess, what is called out to this man's office, or what he thinks is this man's office, and he's like, "Yeah, this gang of vampires have moved into this house. I need you to clear out this nest." And then, unbeknownst to Angel, we the audience see that he's like actually not who he says he is. He was posing as this business owner, and he punches out the guy who is the real boss. It's like it's a lot of stuff on top of each other that I don't really think is necessary.
Right, because he could have just been that. Like we didn't need the like he was pretending to be. That is like a plot that if you cut out, it's the exact same. Like you don't.
Yeah, like he could have just been like he could have been in the office at the hotel, like talking to Angel. I don't know.
I think structurally that they just did that so it's clear that he has no money. He's borrowing the identity of Rich.
Yeah. That makes sense, actually.
But they spend a little too much time on it. It could have been.
Yeah. But again, because this is an episode of Angel, there is a prerequisite fight scene in the vampire nest. And we think that he's cleared it out. And then he goes back for more money. We learn that it's all it was a scam. It was a swindle. There's a very on the nose line of dialogue where again it's like the episode calling its own thesis out to itself, where it's like, oh yeah, like, well, you know, who heard of vampires like who want money? And then there's a throwaway line of dialogue about treasure, and again, it's a great episode of David Boreanaz getting to be silly because he just turns back and he's like,
yes. I was gonna say that scene, that like everything about it is so like unnecessary plot, whatever. But then I do love when he's like, "Mom," and it's like a little light bulb shines above his head, and he's like, "Wait a minute, treasure."
I had a similar. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say the only other thing I have to say is Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character. It feels like this should have been his boyfriend, right? Like,
yeah, I thought it was.
That's what I was about to say. So the way that Angel says treasure, I went gay. The way that he was talking about how he lost his friend and he had to go back for the watch, and it was the first gift I ever gave him. I was like, this is gay.
It's gay. Like, I was like, I can't tell if this is like because it's early 2000s, like that's on purpose, or if it's just incidental. It feels like with Angel, a lot of times it's incidental. That it's like
it's aggressively straight show.
Yeah, right. Which does sometimes loop itself back around to being then gay.
Well, in one of the interviews that we did with Tim Minear, we had a fan ask him a question about Lindsay and Angel, and Tim said, "Did you pick up on all the flirting that we were putting in?" And they said, "Yeah." He said, "Good. We were trying to build as much sexual tension into that relationship as possible."
All right.
And I don't know if that then indicates that there was a mandate that there's a line you can't go over, which of course there probably was. And so they were pushing things as far as they could. You know, Tara and Willow, which is not the first kiss on screen, but one of the most memorable and important, was only a couple years before this. And, you know, it's just a lot of that gets lost in reflection.
Yeah.
As the sliding scale of progressive continues to move, you know, it's sort of easy to forget that, like, oh, there was nothing on. But yeah, I had the same reaction to this scene through my contemporary lens of, so it was his boyfriend, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah. Because like it feels weird to be like this Rolex So then it's not like, oh, we were kids, we grew up together. It's not, this is like an adult present.
Yeah.
And right, like that makes it feel like, yes, they had to have been boyfriend. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't
Here we
really
are.
matter.
Again, here we are putting more into the story than was on the page.
A thing I don't, one of the many things I don't love about this particular story is like that Angel is so beaten up, and we learn that he only killed 3 that first time, and there's 4 more, and I'm just like, this is like pretending this would be a chore for Buffy in season 3, and like,
yeah,
and Angel is like pretty good fighter, so it feels like this would be absolutely nothing for him.
I have a rationalization for it,
Okay,
which might be complete bump. But so in Buffy, you know how like her powers kind of in season 1, it's like, oh, she struggles to like kill one, and then by season 3, she's like, racking them up. And I always saw that as like a metaphor for like she gets stronger and faster and better once she starts embracing her destiny and stops like running away from it. Yeah. And with Angel in this episode, I'm like, oh, is it just because he was so distracted and like off his game because he was so fixated on the money that
That's
he's
fair.
kind of like, the fact that he allowed himself to be ambushed because he was like, yeah, I killed all 3, and the guy was like, there were 7. And he's like, oh, are they behind me?
Wah, wah.
So whatever. I do like once we get to when he's arguing with the guy and then they get in and he's like staking and killing the vamps while arguing, because that is like, yes, this is how Angel would fight these vampires. And I do like when and I like when Angel gets to be shitty, and I like that he's being shitty by almost like showing the guy, look how easy this is for me. I'm staking these vampires and I'm arguing with you. So I do like that. And then I do like the end beat of Angel's phone's beeping, because even I was like, why is he answering his phone? That sounds like voicemail. Why would they give the ringtone? And then the guy says, I think that's your voicemail. And you hear Angel just go, damn it. And I thought that was...
That's one of the best iterations of that joke.
Yeah.
Is the little voicemail throwaway line right at the end there. I like that too.
So we go back to Fred and Lorne, who are now captured. I wanted to ask the class, I was like, I don't know what a better solution would be, but it feels like a terrible idea to bring the baby with you, but I just don't know what the other solution would be.
Exactly the same. I was like, you're walking in there alone, and because you have the baby in your arms, you don't even have like a crossbow or anything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, so like, was she really just hoping that they could talk their way out of it and give back the money and that it would be okay? Or I don't know.
When has that ever worked?
Probably, yeah.
But I was like, why's she bringing that baby? And then I was like, well, I guess you can't leave a baby alone. And then I was like, well, who would she call? All of her friends are not answering. She like explicitly said no one is answering their phone.
It's one of the more effective ways where the episode really does kind of land its message of like, yeah, they are stretching themselves too thin.
Yeah.
Like they are in mortal danger and there's no one there to save them. But we do get then that very satisfying moment of Cordelia is pushed back through the curtain, and then who should come back with her but Wesley and Gunn.
Yeah. I do like, and I like that once they're starting to like be overcome, then Angel jumps in. And what I do really like about that is that we then we're done. We don't need to see the fight because like we know how it's going to go. Right. And I appreciate when they do that on these shows, when it's like, yeah, you get it. We can cut to the end of this thing because you know what's going to happen.
Again, it felt very like Buffy isn't going to let the monsters or like the villain of the week like ham it up. She's like, I'm going to throw an axe like at your head and you're going to be done.
Yeah, we're not entertaining this. Yeah. So yeah, they save the day, and we end on. Well, we get Angel doing the like funny. It's like, I get what you're doing. Just take the fucking money because yes, you also need the money, and yes, you can also say family is more important than money. You can say both things. Just he keeps like just saying it and looking at the cash, then saying it, then looking at the cash.
The way they position that, it's as if there's a choice to be made. It's like, well,
right.
And really, if it says it, she's like, they almost took Fred's head off. Like, we earned every penny. And it's like, well, yeah, what are you going to do? Leave 50 grand lying on the floor as some kind of like moral statement? No, take the money.
No, take the fucking. I never liked leaving money as a moral statement in anything, because I'm like, you can also like be like, oh, those people were evil, but I need this money. Like,
taking the money, you're not going to become them.
Yeah,
just do capitalism. Take the money.
Yeah. Ian, did you have something to say about that scene before I move on to the final scene that I love? No? Okay. We end on one of, I always forget what episode this is in, but I feel like I am loving Cordelia, and I know you're not the biggest fan, Ian, but I feel like this watch, I love them even more together because I love seeing how they've grown, and I love how, like, normally you would think describing these characters, right? Or in like early seasons of Buffy, you would think Cordelia would be the one crushing because Angel's like a hot guy, and Angel would be the one who's like not really noticing it. But I love that Cordelia does love him, even though she's not. I don't know that it's that she's not there or not realizing what the kind of love is, but I like that she still has the love. Like, she still has it. But Angel, we know as an audience, as we've seen him talking about it, is realizing the feelings. And I just, this is the type of romance I love, when it's like, these people have grown, these people are adults. It's why I always say I like Angel and Buffy best when Angel and her are not in season 7, which I know people don't love, when he comes back and they're able to be like, breeze through their bullshit. They fight the demon. He gives her the thing and he leaves. That is my favorite version of their relationship, because these are adults. And that's what I always like.
I agree with everything you just said. I think my favorite romances begin from best friends. My problem is that
it doesn't ever.
There's a difference between, like, Angel behaves as though, now that he's developed romantic feelings for her, that it can go any place. But the stupid curse means that he never grapples with it from the standpoint of, my life, I am stuck, right? All of his behavior is the behavior of, it could be a high school movie with a kid who just realized they have a crush on this person. And they never grapple with the curse. They never grapple with the fact that Buffy and Angel were a thing and Jealous came back. Therefore, I can't risk being perfectly happy ever again. That is never the lens through which their relationship gets looked at. And I think that would have been way more interesting than having to bring Grusalog back and which is just introducing impediments to the romance that you've sold to the audience anyway. And I love Cordy and Angel's relationship. I love the season 1 sponsor that she is for him. I love the best friend relationship the two of them have. I just don't ship them. I don't find that romance interesting. We've done doomed romance. It's why is this? What is this as compared to that? But I do love this at the end of the sequence when they're in bed talking, like feeding the baby and all of that. Like, that could have been it. That is the destination. Anything beyond that, we already know how that turns out. So what are we doing for the rest of the season where he's like jealous of Connor having slept with her, as opposed to, wow, that's disgusting.
That's not till next season.
No, but it's the same thing. Like, that rage, sort of, it should have been me. What is he upset about? Is he upset about the incest, or is he upset that it wasn't him? Like, it's not clear. This bit that we see of him that got activated by Chirumtion doesn't go anywhere for 2 seasons. It's just sexual. It's just emotional blue balls for 2 seasons of the show. And I just don't find that interesting, is all I'm saying. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's fair. No, that's fair. But I just love this. I think it's so sweet. I didn't even remember that, like, Cordelia is basically like doing the thing the thing you do when you're like super cheesy in love, when it's like, oh, planning out future things. Like, that is so, like, I don't know. But she's not doing it. She's doing it in like a jokey way. So it does land for me. It doesn't feel too like saccharine. It feels like she's like, cause she's like, oh, when we get our yacht. Cause like clearly that's not a real life plan, but you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's just like they are both so good together. And Charisma Carpenter has such good chemistry with anyone she shares a scene with. But I feel like the way Cordelia talks to Angel even is different than the way Cordelia talks to anyone else. And I just love it. I like teared up watching this earlier because I love it so much.
It's a lovely return to the usual dynamic as well, where, you know, he's been reminded of the mission. And so Cordelia gets to be the slightly flighty one because he's like, right, we're going to pay off our debts. We're going to put money in Connor's college fund. She's like, yeah. And then we're going to like go skiing.
Yeah.
and it's we get back to like that dynamic, which is lovely. But what is so nice about this episode and kind of this scene in particular, that you're absolutely right in, it's their relationship kind of in microcosm, because there's a level of maturity to their relationship that was never there with Buffy. They are literally co-parenting, like they are raising this baby together. Like she is in this episode, like if you were like, you know, especially like going in and watching it in isolation today, if you had been like not a very like loyal viewer and you like maybe missed a huge chunk of episodes and then you tuned in, you'd be like, oh my god, like Cordelia and Angel had a baby. Like she is his mother.
Yes.
And it's like, it's so lovely to watch them being this family unit, like lying on the bed together. And also like that, like she is falling asleep because they've had this like exhausting day. And it just looks like two regular parents, you know, falling asleep with their kid because they're exhausted.
It's almost like the romantic plots of this show has such a more shallow perspective than the characters do. This is intimacy. This is vulnerability. This is what you want. I mean, like, it's to predicate all of it on sexual intimacy alone, which 2 episodes later, when she's horny for the Gruselug, like again sort of reverts to that, and it's like this sequence didn't exist. But like, I look at this beat, and this is what people crave. You know, this is this kind of connection and feeling safe and in a bubble together that the two of you are creating by your chemistry and your presence and all of that is really beautiful. But the plots of the episodes don't seem to realize that, you know.
That's fair. That's fair. That is a fair critique. I thought about this recently because I've been getting a lot of the like, oh, hot take, Angel's the better show than Buffy. You do think that, Ian? I can't remember. No. Okay, good. Because I didn't want to sound like I was reading you. I think that it is seen that way because it is a very heterosexual show. And I think a lot of these connections become incidental, where it's like, oops, these characters have such great chemistry. We kind of have written them into a romance. Let's go with it.
Let's do it with a
Yeah. In the same way that like Fred, Gunn, and West does not land for any of the three of us, because it is like, that is in the text. It is not there's no showing there because there just isn't. But with Cordelia and Angel, I absolutely think Charisma Carpenter, David Boreanaz just had good chemistry, and the writers were like, oh shit, let's work with that. And
I mean, tellingly, that's a relationship that also came over from Buffy.
Yeah.
With some dynamics and already in place.
Yes.
From the beginning of it with those two.
They already have like the mutual respect at the very least at that point. So it's like we've
shared
already
history.
Yeah. And I think that lots of times people will say Angel's a better show because it's like very straight angst. Because Buffy has the angst too. Buffy has fucking trauma after trauma in that show. Like seasons 5 and 6 here are Buffy's traumas.
It's just it's the Barbenheimer thing where like Buffy as a female-led show is just like so much like more femme. It's gayer because there are actual queer characters. And then Angel was so hard pitched as the masculine show. It's a detective. It's a noir. Like it's super violent and also like they immediately aged up all of the characters so it feels more grown up, but often
that was what I was going to say. Is I think that there's also a propensity to take quote unquote mature stories more seriously. And Angel is the adult show.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is the, it's the same bias that I think people have against young adult fiction.
Yeah.
As opposed to where I think the way Buffy is written can be mapped onto any era of a person's life. Any new set of circumstances, any new set of problems, struggles, identity crises, all of that. You could take 3 seasons of Buffy and map it onto what you were dealing with in your life at that point.
I mean, my mom is the one that got me into Buffy, and she was like 50 when she was watching it when it was on the air. It's not like she was remotely the age of any of the characters were supposed to be, but she fucking loved both of them.
I feel like that's why we still talk about Buffy, where I feel like, and I know there are going to be a percentage of people out there that agree with me. I feel like the reason we're still talking about Angel is because we're still talking about Buffy.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's kind of the difference.
Yeah. If I have full disclosure, I mean, I don't think this should be shocking, but if Angel weren't a Buffy spinoff, we would not be covering Angel. But
there are so many LA-based, sort of supernatural mystery shows that tried to do what Buffy and Angel do, and we're especially in that kind of time period, we're not doing a podcast about them.
No, yeah, exactly. All right, well, before we do our little roundup, some trivia for this episode. Apparently, it says taken together with Buffy's next episode, Double Meat Palace. It's the first time both shows explore sudden critical need for money. I did not realize this. The slogan for Angel Investigations changes to "We help the helpless" in this episode. It was originally "We help the hopeless" in I Fall to Pieces. And Fred, when she's gets up, after almost being beheaded, she says, "If you can keep your head as those about you are losing theirs," which is from a Rudyard Kipling poem called If.
Again, a real shut up, Fred moment for me. You were nearly murdered. Calm down. It's giving gifted kid. You do not need to be quoting Kipling. The man,
that's to me is
committed atrocities as well. So let's start there.
That's like trying to turn a piece of candy into fine dining. It's just don't. Just let it be candy. Candy is great.
We're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my trivia for the episode. Favorite scene, Philip?
Oh God. I think I'm going to go with the cold open and the split screen, just because it's a really funny gag, and that whole scene sets up basically the entire episode.
That's fair. Ian?
Probably the song. The cold open's the best assembled bit. I agree. The split screen bit's great, but the best vignette I like is the zombie stalker boyfriend.
That's fair. Yeah. I think of that. I mean, it's the funniest. My favorite scene is the Angel Cordelia scene at the end. I just fucking love it. Favorite outfit, Ian? I know you hate this one.
No, not at all. It's just the problem I ran into is I finished and forgot to fill that in and look for it while I was watching, and I'm a complete blank. Nothing stands out to me.
That is
I
fair.
have the exact same problem where the credits rolled and I was like, what was anyone wearing?
Nothing.
I think that Wesley had a nice jacket, but I'm going to go with the geometrically patterned robes that the alien monsters were wearing.
Philip, I want you to know my favorite says, those shiny demon masks and robes, love a dramatic outfit. That's what
yeah, the Star Trek puzzle robes. That's a great pick.
What grade do we give this episode, Philip?
C.
Ian?
First of all,
I
would just like to say, I really do actually like Angel. I'm actually a fan of this show. And I don't think you would know it based on my recent appearances on this podcast.
You were on for Lullaby and you did love that.
I love Lullaby. I gotta go D+, C- for this one.
All right. I give it a C+. And the plus is because of the cold open and the end. Like, I think those scenes both are really good. And it's not.
I think a thing, if we're just like going back in and, you know, doing more corrective surgery and fixing the episode, I think a thing that would have made it maybe just more satisfying to watch is if each storyline had played out in full and it was like presented as a series of stories.
Yeah.
Rather than
that would have been great. Yeah. An anthology.
I think that the structure of it, it's overstuffed, but it still feels really flimsy.
Yeah.
And I think
30 minutes of content in a 45-minute episode is one of my notes.
Yeah.
Which is wild because there's so much plot, but yes, I do think it's like still only like maybe 30 minutes.
And Ian, I love your bedtime story fix for the whole thing. And then the baby won't go to sleep. So, all right, well, let me tell you another one. And then, that sets up the anthology structure.
Right. And because I did find those scenes charming. I do think Charisma Carpenter is so like dynamic and like fun to watch that's fun to watch her narrating to the baby.
Having an episode narrated by Charisma Carpenter would be amazing. And also I love it when you have sort of storylines played out like that, where you're like, oh, and what were Wes and Gunn doing while all this was happening? Oh, well, let me tell you. And it's something to bring up another show that we talk about a lot, The Magicians. I think the episode was called 6 Short Stories About Magic. They had an episode called The Sidekicks, which like played with structure and perspective in really satisfying ways. And I just, I love it. If you have a week where you're like, okay, this stuff happens, it's all a little bit weak. Let's make the medium the message. Let's have like the way we tell the story be the thing that makes it super interesting. The way that like Conversations with Dead People in Buffy season 7 is presented so differently as its own unique,
and it still fucking works. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you both for joining me. Thank you all for listening. If you liked Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can watch our video recordings because all of our episodes are now video recordings on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to us, give us a good rating, like our videos. It helps get the podcast out there. And if you want to follow us on social, we are at SlayerFestX98 on all social media platforms. Feel free to support us on Patreon. Any and all support is much appreciated. And I am at Ian X Carlos on all social media platforms. Philip, where can everyone find you and get your books?
You can find me on Instagram at Philip Ellis. That's Philip with 1 L, Ellis with 2. And you can buy my books online on Amazon or in your local bookstore. And please buy them because you know what? Even a vampire does not suck for free.
Ian, where can everyone find you?
YouTube.com/Passion of the Nerd.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.